everybody. We have me, as usual, and Greg here to join us today. He'll be talking about his fun fan chart app later, after I do my normal, just talking about what the stuff this week on WikiTree. So we have Chris. Hello, Chris.
Is Chris there? Hey, Chris.
Yeah, she is here. Yo. And Mags is still at the cabin, so she could not join us. Julie was feeling a bit under the weather.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, more like sinus stuff, so it was more like she couldn't concentrate. Who else is here? Let's wait for because there's usually a lag, so we'll wait a second.
Isabel.
Matt and Isabel. Hello. It's I'm actually I was telling Greg, actually more awake than usual because I actually got sleep last night. I didn't work last night. I'm still tired. I don't know. I feel like I'm in this, especially since this virus thing. I feel like I'm always tired. Let's see who else is here. So, Greg, have you mostly been at home since all of this happened, or?
Yeah, I've been at home, but that's not unusual. I'm retired. I'm a retired math and computer science teacher, so going on 2 years retired. So
usually at home anyway.
I'm at home most of the time. Yes. Yeah.
So you have lots of time to do WikiTree stuff.
That's right. Though not as much as I thought. Being retired is a busy job. So my retirement gig is I became the music director for our church. Though our church is shut down in March, I think they did all over the States as well. I'm up in Canada, in Ontario. So I had a little bit of extra free time that was unusual on the weekends. So that was kind of nice. And I did get a little WikiTree stuff in, and that's when I did the majority of the work, updates on the fan chart app, actually. So it did give me time for that, so that's a good thing.
That's cool. Chris likes your mug and asks if you're the
my Doctor Who mug. Yes,
because you're a science teacher, plus have a TARDIS mug, so maybe you are the Doctor.
Yeah, I'm not the Doctor, not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe the next incarnation. We'll see.
And hello, Bob. Dole. So anybody else has anything to say? Oh, I've been talking to you guys how I got my I went to Roots Tech. I got this chart to put my family tree on. I finally put it up, and it's not really filled out that well. I'm still writing on it, but I put it right there next to me.
Nice.
To fill out my whole family tree, so I can just look at it and be like, "Oh, look, there's that guy." So, and then my cat.
Your cats.
So. Yes, I finally felt inspired. I was like, you know what? This thing has been sitting it was rolled up. I was like, let me open it and actually put it up. And it took a long time because I don't know. I didn't want to put it up unfinished, but it's going to be unfinished. But I don't want to put everybody in permanent marker yet because I don't have everybody's middle names yet. And I didn't want to put their names without middle names because then I'll find them later. So I'm just having this crisis right now. It's like, what am I going to put permanent?
Right. Hi, Jory.
Hello, Jory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess we can start with. I'll go ahead and start with the question of the week. Is who were you named after? Were you named after anybody, Greg?
Well, that's an interesting question because I was adopted, so. My birth name was Kelly John Douglas, so I don't know who, and there actually aren't any Kellys I can find in my family tree since I got reconnected to the birth family. But the name that my adopted name is Gregory Patrick Clarke, and my dad's name was Patrick, my adopted dad. Yeah, and it's fun going back in time. It's interesting on my dad's side. It's every other generation. It's either a Patrick or a John or a Patrick or a John. And on my mother's side, it's either a Donald or an Alexander or Donald Alexander. So So we called yeah. Anyways, my firstborn, we named him Jonathan Patrick, so he's a combination of things.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's always fun seeing the naming patterns and in a tree. So, and hello Pip, and hello Jelaine.
Oh, Pip. Hey there, Pip.
I was actually named after my maternal grandmother because she was already deceased when I was born, so my mom named me after her. So, and my middle name is actually my mom's middle name too, so I got just got
nice.
So yeah, I was looking at some fun ones. A lot of people saying they were named after because this question is also on Facebook. So if you guys are on Facebook, you can always find the question of the week on Facebook too, so you can share it with your family or friends. I saw one on Facebook saying that she was named after a dog, like a favorite dog that had passed away. So I thought that was fun. Some people were named after actresses.
Cool.
And this was funny. So this person's name is Gurney Thompson, and they said a hospital cart used to move bodies around. I like to tell people that every crime show starts with me at a murder scene.
Oh my.
And then so Marion, she said, my mother was determined to give me a French name. My father was dead against it, so they named me after Sir Marion Wilson, Chief Superintendent of Scotland Yard. Mom was insisting on slight changing of the spelling. Dad won because he was a Bobby. And I lost.
I lost. Oh.
So Kitty Smith said, my brother was 5 years older when I was born, and he got to give me my middle name. At the time, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans was his focus, so I am Kitty Dale. Lucky I didn't get Trigger or Bullet.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's funny, my sister, my parents always thought she was going to be a boy for a while, so they had her set as Benjamin. Because that was my dad's side, so they were trying to be like one daughter will be on my mom's side and one daughter will be the other kid will be on my dad's side. But then lo and behold, she was a girl, so they had to change that name to Katie. So Robin she said it's not after anyone, parents just like the name. Some people said that too, that they're not really named after anybody, that their parents just like that name. And I feel like as like more modern people do that, more like they like the name rather than keeping it in the family. Let's see. So Virginia says, my first name Virginia came from my mother's youngest maternal aunt. She was Sarah Virginia and called Virgie. My dad also had a couple of Virginias in his family. Barry says, my middle name is Reed. I was named for an Alp, the Raider Alp in Canyon Vallis, Switzerland. Interesting. Robin says, my mother read a book with a character in it she liked named David Robin. She decided to name her firstborn after this character. Well, I wasn't a boy, so I got named Robin. Thankfully without the David.
Yes.
It's funny, my grandmother, her name is Benny. She was actually named after her grandfather, Benjamin. So they kind of like shortened her name, which I thought was kind of interesting. I saw some other people saying they were named after their father or grandfather, like with just a twist in the name, like girls saying they were named after a male ancestor. Let's see if there are any other. Read a couple more.
While you're looking in the chat, Chris says that he was born near Christmas, so he was given the name Chris.
Okay.
Which is interesting. I have some ancestors that I've discovered whose names were Noel, which would be the same sort of scenario probably. Isabel says that she was lucky not to be named Fernand or Germaine. My birth grandmother was Germaine, actually, but I'd never heard that name before until then. And Pip, Chris pointed out that there's a famous hobbit named Pip, so I don't know if that's a good thing for Pip or not. It's cool if you like Tolkien. Isabel's two
So,
youngest daughters were named after medieval French queens. Very cool.
oh.
Very cool.
So apparently another person was named after a character in a book. I was named Trudy Ann after a character my mom liked in a book. I have frequently had people insist my real name is Gertrude and Trudy Ann is a nickname. Like I don't know my own name. Apparently, okay, so Charlotte Glandis says she was named after the spider in Charlotte's Web. Charles, the masculine form, appears several times in my paternal line. So Jennifer Wilson Pine says, my family is big on naming after relatives. I got the whole female side of the family. Jennifer was my mother's first cousin and my godmother. Middle name Ruth Ann. Ruth was both my grandmother and was my mom, whose full name was Jessie Ruth Ann, but Jessie was her aunt and Ruth was her mom, so she went by Ann. So that somebody who was named after Judy Garland.
Very cool.
That's cool. It's always I liked reading those. I saw there's a whole bunch on Facebook too. I read a whole bunch. So there we go. The question of the week. And did anybody else say anything?
Talking about Eleanor of Aquitaine being someone's favorite queen, Pip's favorite queen.
So Brian on Facebook says Brian came from my great uncle, my mom's side. Patrick was a take from my mom, Patricia.
Nice.
So interesting. So that's our question of the week. Who were you named after? I thought that was I like that question.
That was a neat one. Yeah.
So our profile of the week is I'm going to briefly talk about him. Alexis, I can't even really say his name. De Tocqueville. I guess somebody in the chat, because we have Isabel here and some other people who are more familiar with the French. Alexis de Tocqueville or Tocqueville.
Tocqueville.
Tocqueville. Oh, that might be right. Yeah. He was a French politician. Oh, somebody just Azure. Hi, Azure.
Oh,
welcome. So Alexis de Tocqueville, he was a French politician, political science, and historian. He wrote some books and stuff. He was mostly known for what was it? His analysis on American democracy and the French Revolution, because while he did a lot of stuff in France, he actually came over to the States to study the American prison system. I thought that was pretty cool. And he wrote one of his major works, The Old Regime and the Revolution, was left unfinished, but part of it was published. And I kind of breezed. I read through his profile a bit. I would recommend everybody reading it because it is really interesting. It's just sometimes I don't feel like reading it out loud. Sometimes sounds boring to me, so I don't usually like to do that. But it's cool. They were also talking about his family were victims of the terror in France, and they survived, but they survived that. And they also have his biography in French. So if any of you watching maybe don't read well in English, you can read it in French. And I really like that gets done a lot sometimes on profiles that are not, they didn't speak native English. So they'll put the biography also in their native language, which I think is really, really great. And if any of you are ever encouraged to do that for somebody who English is not their native language, if you want to write it in their native language, go ahead and see. Look, they have a little link here for the English version, and then they have a link to read the French version. So that's a great thing about WikiTree. We're trying to add more languages, and we have a lot of international people speaking a whole bunch of different languages, and we're trying to make it more multilingual.
Multilingual.
Yes. I was going to say bilingual, but that's not right. That's not right. That's not the right word.
That's right.
Oh, Isabel says his biography gave her a lot of trouble. Please read it. Please read it for Isabel. Read it for Isabel. Oh. I read through it, Isabel. Democracy. Okay. Isabel said some stuff. Oh, yeah, Pip says Alexis wrote a fabulous book on early America, and Isabel says Democracy in America. Pip says he's even quoted in political circles today. So has any of you read any of his work, or I don't know. I haven't. I'm not really. Politics is something I just kind of.
That's me too, Sarah.
Even in school, like I took classes about it, but it just never interested me. So, but maybe that's something. Maybe I should. I feel like it's becoming more important today, anyway. And as I'm getting older, I feel like everybody should know a little bit of politics. So maybe I'll read. Maybe I'll look into this Democracy in America. Jelaine.
Oops. Yeah.
So, anybody have anything to say about him other than what I said or what's in the biography? I don't know if you had some, Isabel, if there were any fun facts about him that you read that you didn't put in the biography. So I know there's so much stuff about a person's life that you couldn't possibly put everything in a biography. Like I've written a few biographies for some of these profiled weeks, and it's hard. So I give props, like Isabel, I give anybody props who can write biography. Right. It's hard.
So what would your suggestion be then? Like if someone had a biography, like they have the story of someone's life, and it can't all fit in a biography. I mean, it could, but it would be unwieldy. So would you link to a Google Doc or an open? Is that where you do an open space page, or what would you do?
I feel like if it's if it's a biography, you can put it on there on the page. But maybe if it's something extra, like if you wanted to add the will or maybe a section about one part of their life that's really extensive, maybe put a free space page and link to that. Like I don't know what an example would be. Like maybe if you wanted to talk, like we have the travels and works here of Alexis. Maybe if you wanted to go into depth about him studying the American prison system, and his venture there, maybe you can make a free space page and link it to his profile. Like I feel like the biography should be more like a brief, more summary. But if you really wanted to get into depth about one part of their life, you can make a free space page if you feel like it's getting lengthy. So that's what I would, because I also, you said the Google Doc, but I feel like we want to keep everything on WikiTree.
Right.
So it's easier. You are more than welcome to make a Google Doc and link to it, but it's better. I think it's better for WikiTree having all those links, and so people don't have to go to an external site if they want to read it. Maybe they don't have Google. Maybe they don't like Google. So if it's all on WikiTree, it's a little easier. So yeah, that's our profile of the week, Alexis de Tocqueville. So, and thank you, Isabel, for working on his biography.
Yeah.
So,
good job.
The next thing we're going to talk about are photos. One of my favorite things to look at, and the theme was girls. So we'll look at a whole bunch of girls today. We'll see. And look, nice. They listed everybody.
Oh, nice.
And I feel like they probably left to right. Oh, this photo was taken on the day of their father's funeral. Oh.
Are you? If you're in Chrome, aren't you?
Me?
You have the, yeah.
No, I'm on Firefox, but
You're on Firefox.
I'm using StreamYard on Firefox, but then I share my screen and I open Chrome, so it's a different window.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious because if you're in Chrome, and they have listed who's in the photo.
Oh, that
it'll
app?
highlight the extension. It'll show who that is. The face.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's the app for Google Chrome where you can download to do the photos and link it. Yeah, I go back and forth using Chrome and Firefox because Firefox is my browser of choice, but Firefox has been giving me a lot of issues with Gmail lately, and I always have to reset my cookies, so I usually use Chrome now for Gmail. Firefox has stopped liking Gmail. I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but I've been having a lot of trouble, so I just use Chrome now. So I use two browsers now. Look at all these. Look at this photo. Whole bunch of. I feel like there's. It doesn't look like there's 3 generations. Maybe just 2.
Like sisters with their kids or something.
Nancy, Foster and girls.
Wow.
This. Oh
wow.
11 sisters.
That's
That
a
was
lot of girls.
Yes. That. I wonder if there were any sons or if they just took a picture of the sisters. I had some bigger, like my grandmother, she was one of 8, but there were brothers and sisters. It's always interesting, when it's just
one, yeah.
either girls or when it's just boys, the odds of that. The odds of having 11 girls. And if that was if you only had 11 kids, the odds of that. It's a very interesting. Thank you, Corrine, for sharing that photo. The Carter girls. They look like they're having a great grand old time. Oh, Sandy and Charlie. They look like they're in front of. Where are they? Oh, maybe they're in DC, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me being. I have no idea.
Say on the...
No, it doesn't.
Harry Truman on the.
Yeah, it says maybe. I feel like maybe that's one of the a building in.
Oh, DC.
Maybe. I don't know.
I heard BC. That's Canadian.
No.
But that didn't make sense.
Sorry. I should probably clarify a little bit for
our
look, Miami. What is this? Bowling team? That's fun. Maple's bowling team. That's a fun photo.
Oh, wow. Pip says he had a cousin by marriage, one of 12 boys.
Oh, man. So this is a birthday party of one of these girls. And it looks like they, guess, photoshopped or digitally put in the names. So it's Betsy's birthday. Which one is Betsy? This one's Betsy. Here's Betsy.
Really? At the back?
Mm-hmm.
I would guess it was the one in the middle with the big smile on her face.
You would think so.
She's kind of, everybody else is looking at the camera, but she's looking off.
She's probably making sure all her guests are happy.
Yeah.
Well, she's also taller, so maybe I don't know. I can't even start to guess what was going on. The Kelser Holmes sisters. They're all like that. Oh. Alice, Carrie, Anna, Kate, Mary, and Rachel. And it probably in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Very cool photo. I like their pose. I like the pose they chose.
Yes. They have a little bit of
The Hess girls. look at this. Look what they added up here. Like they have the back row, the middle row,
cool.
and the
That was a
front
good way to
row.
do it.
That's an excellent way.
You know what? She looks like, ooh, I just blanked on her name, but the one from Game of Thrones. I don't know if you guys.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That just.
She does. Wow.
Maisie Williams is the actress.
There we go. Yes. Literally was there. That's so. Looks very. I don't know. I just instantly am like, she looks like.
Arya, right?
Yeah, Arya.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Arya.
Yeah.
She doesn't mind that comparison.
Oh, she'll probably never see this, and if she does, then we're really lucky. Here's this photo.
Okay.
The Coat Girls.
Oh, that's cute. Too cute.
That's really cute. Look at those little curls. Look at her curls.
Nice.
And their big bows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have one more page of photos. The Norwich Guide Company in England. Anybody familiar? That feels like a scout troop, like Girl Scouts or something.
Yeah.
I feel like.
It's like it.
I was in Girl Scouts.
Oh, that's cute.
This is I think this is my favorite photo. After I also like the one of all the sisters too, but this one's a really nice photo too. She probably grew up to be a model, maybe. The Burdett girls. Students of the King Conservatory of Music. I feel like this person has put other photos of the conservatory. Oh, there's a little baby. The Stone Sisters from Nova Scotia. The Johnson Sisters. 4 generations. I love these photos. 4 generations of.
Nice.
There's a lot of really good photos in this bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, they're under a tree with umbrellas. How cute.
That's adorable.
The sisters and aunts. And that is the last photo. How great. I love really good photos this time. Thanks everybody for sharing your photos if you're here. I always feel like my family doesn't have a lot of photos, I feel like, personally, that I have found. So that's why I usually never share photos. I don't have a lot. It's unfortunate. Okay. Now, I think it's time.
Is it time?
For Greg to share with us his fan chart app. Are you guys ready? Also start thinking of questions. He might cover what you have a question for, but get your questions ready.
Yes. Chris has tons of photos. Yes. Especially, yeah. Anyways, welcome everyone. Yeah, this will be exciting. I just put my phone on mute and hopefully that will hold and so I won't be interrupted or distracted, though I can't promise that. So I'm going to go through a number of different features of the fan chart app this morning. I sort of timed myself, and after about 20 minutes, I've got through most of the features, but there's more features that I remembered programming. So, it may go a little longer, or we may have to break it up into a couple different batches. But yeah, Chris mentioned he was a guinea pig, so he was one of the first ones to test this out. And I don't know if Tommy is online this morning, but Tommy Buch, I think is B-U-C-H is her last name. he's been helping me a lot with, especially with the color coding, because I'm not colorblind, but I'm hard of color. So distinguishing some shades is a little difficult. So he's given me a lot of help in refining a number of the palettes and things like that. So, and lots of people put comments in about things they'd like to see or bugs that they found, and that's all been very, very helpful. So I thank all of you who have helped me in developing it to this point. And so let's get started. So to get to the first thing is you need to know how to get to the fan chart. And the easiest way now is from your home page or the profile page of anyone, actually. You just go to the Family Tree and Tools page. So I'll just click on that from my home page there. And you'll see there's my family tree. And one of the things, so I mentioned very briefly, if you were here at the very beginning, that I was adopted. And so about 2.5 years or so ago, took a DNA test and then got connected with a first cousin once removed, though we weren't exactly sure what the connection was initially. And she and I were determined to figure out how we were related. The only thing I knew about my adoption was my last name was Douglas, my birth name. And her last name was Douglas, so there was a pretty good chance that we were connected somehow, but I didn't know whether that was my father's last name, my mother's last name, or anything. Anyways, long story short, we got connected. I have a full brother and sister, and I've been, since then, that's when I joined WikiTree, because I wanted to have a new place to put a family tree for my adopted family, so I could build that from scratch. And the amazing thing about WikiTree is once I got sort of past this last generation, or into the 1800s, especially on the French side, the French-Canadian side, all of a sudden I was making connections to families that were already there. And I had, in many cases, I only had to go 3 or 4 generations back, and then boom, I was all of a sudden all the way back to France. So
the great thing about WikiTree.
It's amazing. It was just fantastic. Now, if only I had as much luck on my Irish side, Irish/Scottish side with the Douglases. That's kind of a brick wall for me right now, is the William Douglas line. So anyways, and I also have taken advantage of the DNA features that WikiTree offers. So that's why you see those little DNA check marks. But I digress. Actually, this will come back later. You'll see. So when you scroll down,
tool we'll use later.
What's that?
The tool we'll use later on.
Exactly. So when you scroll down, all the additional tools are there in alphabetical order, and then you'll see the fan chart. And someone actually put a cool little image in here. I don't know if you did that, Sarah or Chris.
No, I'm not that. It was either Jamie or Chris.
I feel very special because I'm the only tool that has a little graphic next to it, which makes it really easy, because if you click on the graphic, boom, it takes you straight to...
the graphic does it too? Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, even if you're really klutzy, you can get to your fan chart really quickly.
That's good to know, that you can get to it from the profile itself without having to go into the apps project page. So that's good to know.
It is good to know. But that brings up an excellent point, though, because so I got to there, as you can see, straight from the family tree chart. But there are some people who say, well, when I go into my family tree, I don't see that as an option. And that's because if you don't see that as an option in your family tree and tools page, it's because of your privacy setting. So here is my privacy controls page for myself. And you'll see I've got my privacy set very public. I'm a very, very open person. I don't have any skeletons that I know of right now. So I have it wide open. But if you have it set back up here in red alert, then your information will not show up. And the way the fan chart is programmed currently, it uses the default privacy settings for WikiTree. So living people who are not WikiTree members do not show up except for the name, the word private will show in that cell and no other information about them. And if you have your own profile set as private, then the same sort of thing, which also means that the tools that require more than basic privacy won't show up in that list. So you won't be able to get to it from your family tree and tools page. However, I'm going to put that back there. just so I don't mess anything up. The other way to get to it, if you don't have it in your family tree tools, is from the Help Index. So under the Help menu, go down to Help Index, and then that's a whole index of everything on WikiTree. And if you look under the bottom of the A list for apps, click on Apps, and then you can see a number of different apps, including the fan chart app. And you can click on that, and it takes you to the opening page. Now, if you go through it through their family tree and tools, which is what I would suggest is the easiest way to get to it at all times, because it automatically opens it up and it defaults to creating the fan chart for you. So you don't have to go anywhere further, and you don't have to remember what your WikiTree code is. If you do it this way, you do have to put in a code, and that code will be your last name and a number. So for me, I lucked out when I signed up for WikiTree. So my code is Clarke-11007. It's an easy one.
007.
Yes. So I can click on that. But if I wanted to put something different, like if R2336 is my birth mother, so if I put in hers, then it'll create her fan chart. Now, if you have your privacy setting set really high, and, let me see if this is my wife's one, and she is a living person and not a WikiTree member. So you can see this is not as descriptive a fan chart as you might want. It's rather blank, and if that's what you get, it's because your profile is set to privacy, or the person you're putting as the primary person is a private or a living individual. So the solution to that is to go to someone whose privacy is more open, or to change your own privacy level. Even if you want to just change it temporarily so that you can use the fan chart, get the fan chart that you want, and then go back and reset it to more private if you're more comfortable with that. So I just wanted to mention that up front, because that's probably the biggest issue when people want to get into the fan chart and they see that it's blank and it's not working for them. Okay.
Everybody's saying how far they are from you as a cousin.
I know that Chris is my 7th cousin, and there's a Julie Marcoux.
Natalie says your 7th cousin's once removed, Nat.
Oh, excellent. Hi, Natalie.
I checked mine. Apparently, Greg, we're 23 cousins once removed.
23. Wow. And did you say 24th cousins? Wow. That's really far back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like William the Conqueror far back? Like that's crazy.
We're 9th cousins once removed.
Are we? Excellent.
Yeah.
So we're all cousins here. Woohoo.
We're all cousins.
That is so cool. That is very cool. Okay, so let me get back to, let's generate my own one again. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to presume at this point that everyone can get to a basic fan chart. And if your profile is too private, then just go up a generation or two until you get to one that you can work with. And I don't know if you want to play along or just watch as I go through this. Yes, Sarah and Azra, if you can, if there's anything in the chat that I need to be aware of, if I'm going too fast or slow, let me know. So I'm just going to go through some of the options. And the first set of options is under fan settings, and that basically determines how the fan chart looks and what is displayed on the fan chart. So the first thing is at the bottom, it determines sort of the coloring or what gets colored in. And in this particular one, it looks like the defaults that I had on most recently where I have the name highlights as well as the wedge backgrounds on. So I'm going to turn them off individually so you can see what that means. So when right now, and basically in the fans, it's just a series of toggles off and on. So you click on something and it either adds the check mark to turn it on, or it removes the check mark to turn it off. So I've turned off the wedge backgrounds, but I've left the name highlights on. And my original first version of this is how I set it up, because that's how I thought looked kind of neat. Also, but then one of the first comments was, well, why don't we just color in the whole cell instead of just the little square around the names? And at first I thought, that sounds more difficult. But I did figure out how to do that, so I added that as a feature. And so you can have the two, so the highlights over top of the wedge backgrounds. But if you don't like that two-tone effect, then you can turn off the highlights and just leave the backgrounds, which has now become my favorite way of doing things. But you've got the ability to customize that. So in the most recent update that I did at the beginning of the Connectathon, I've added a number of different features to customize the data that's in each of the cells. So initially, what you're seeing here is what the original fan chart displayed. And basically, the only options it had was the name, first name, last name, and then a span of dates. And you could turn that on and off. So if you just wanted the names and without the dates, there you go. A nice, clean, minimalist fan chart, which is, depending on what you're doing, might be all you need. But if you want the dates, you can show the lifespan. But the other feature I added is what if you want it to be more specific? So then you can choose the exact dates, and that gives you the exact birth date and death date as they are recorded in WikiTree. So of course, it's all based on what the data is in WikiTree that it's pulling from. And let's see here. I think in my immediate 5 generations, all of the dates are, oh no, there's one. Marie Trepanier, who is one of my great-great-grandparents. I have not yet been able to find the exact death date for her, so you'll see the question mark next to it. I know she's deceased, but I don't know when.
Let's hope. Maybe she's just walking around still. Maybe she's just
born in 1864.
She's immortal.
Maybe that's possible. We'll see. So other options I've added is for middle names. Now on the French Canadian side, which is interesting, and what I've learned is that the first name is actually, so Marie, I'm in this cell here. Can you see my cursor floating around? Mm-hmm. It's Marie-Joséphine Dumont. Marie-Joséphine is what was on her baptismal certificate, and the Quebec tradition is that is her first name. So she went by Marie-Joséphine. Now, often they would later on, just go by one name or the other, or sometimes a different nickname. But you'll notice there's a lot of Maries and a lot of Josephs, because those are often were sort of the first part of their first name. It was
like because I was doing my friend, she's French Canadian, and I researched that. I was like, why is everybody named Marie? But it's because just like an honorary kind of name that every female's given, and the male I think is Joseph. Yeah,
it's very common. So look at here, Joseph Marie, Jean Luzier. Now that's an unusual, but there's another Marie, Joseph Marie. It's a common thing. But on my father's side, the Scottish, English, Irish side, they actually have middle names. So if you look at that side of the family tree, you'll see the difference when I show or hide the middle name. And I added a few other things. Nickname. My birth father apparently had an interesting nickname, Twick, which can't remember what the story behind that one is. Unfortunately, I didn't actually connect with my birth family until both my birth parents had passed away. So never got to meet them, but interesting stories. And some people I know like to use capital letters for their surnames in their charts. I personally don't like that, but I put that as an option. And the prefix and the suffix, there's for sir, if you have, or lady, lord, those sorts of prefixes, if you want those in, and suffixes like the third or senior or junior, that sort of thing. I don't have any of that royalty sort of thing that I know of so far, so it's not an issue for me, but I know it's something that other people have. And then also by popular demand, I've added the WikiTree ID, so people can see, quickly from their, especially if you're using the fan chart as sort of a planning tool, then that's a handy thing to have. So you can quickly jump to that. And the other thing is the Onentafel number, which is
that how you say it? I just always say that. I don't even know how to say it. I would never really say it.
Yeah, Onentafel, which means
it's good to know.
Tafel means table. The Onen, shoot, I didn't know that. If Tommy was online, he'd be able to tell me what it's a compound German word. I want to say ladder table or relations table, or I can't remember. Oh well, but that's the name. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it goes sequential by generation.
Ancestor table.
Ancestor, that's it. Thank you. Ancestor table.
And you were talking, Greg, so I'm sure if people who haven't played with the fan chart app, if they're watching Greg's screen, and when he hovers over certain things, little box pops up on the left.
Yes. So that is the pop-up ancestor card. Is that what you're referring to?
And you're able to click to go to WikiTree. You're able to click to go to their profile, right?
That's exactly it. So here, you're good. So I've hovered over one of my great-grandparents, Edward Little. If I click on that, then boom, it'll take them. Oh, this was a bad one because this is a very, very incomplete profile.
That's okay. We all have those.
Sorry. We'll just hide that. But as you hover over other people, you see it updates, and
very nice.
So now the problem is if the person you want to look at is Eli Marcoux, whose birth name was Joseph Elie Marcoux, but he went by Eli. And so I want to go over to say I want to click on his thing, but as my cursor goes over, see what happened? It rolled over someone else, so I've lost them. So what I've added is a feature that was requested by Cindy Cooper, actually, one of the leads of the Acadian project. So if you double click on the name, you see the little orange tack. That's the tack that pins it. Pins it to the screen. So now I can hover anywhere and Eli's profile is intact. And so now if I click on that, it takes me to his page, which is a little more.
Cool.
What was that, Azure?
I said super cool.
Super cool. And if you want to get rid of the tack, you can just double click somewhere else and the tack disappears. Or you can click on the tack itself and it disappears.
Okay.
Untacks, unhinges, or unpins. Like pins is the word that people use, right? Now, the other thing that is cool about this, I want to go to Achille. Okay. Boop.
It wants to stay tacked.
What's that? It wants to stay. Yeah, it wants to stay tacked on Eli. Okay, so Achille. So there we go. So in the pop-up ancestor card, I call it my Monopoly card, like St. James Place or something. It has the full birth and death information, not only the date, but the location. As you can see, some of the cells in the fan chart are already pretty full. And in fact, my birth father's cell is so full that the Onentafel number doesn't even fit. So the way around that is to turn off some of the stuff. Like if I turned off his nickname, then I could see his Onentafel number. And I just lost Achille's there. But the locations just won't fit that way. So that's one type of information that won't fit in the fan chart. Certainly not this version of it anyways, but it is accessible if you do want it. And we'll look at another way of coloring the chart so you could actually see that information in another way. But, and we talked about the link to the profile, but another cool link is the little picture of the fan chart here. And I don't know if you've played with this, Sarah, but if you click on that little image, no, I don't want the dictionary. So, I don't know know why it does that sometimes. There we go. What I really wanted to show you was that when you click on that image, it reloads the fan chart with that person as the primary person now.
That's cool.
There.
I don't think I had clicked. I probably would have realized it, but that's cool.
And it uses the exact same settings. So whatever settings you set up in terms of, middle name, all the displays, it uses that as well. So that's a quick way to sort of climb your family tree, is if you want to zoom in on one particular grandparent or a chunk of the family. So I think we've covered most of these things here. The one thing we haven't looked at is the Colorize Repeats and what that means. So that'll be easiest to show if I go up one generation. So you click on the +1 and it'll reload the fan chart with an additional generation. So it goes, this case now we're up to 6 generations. The limit is 11 generations. If you go any more than that, to get the information in the cells is so tiny that it's unreadable, or at least mostly unreadable. So I haven't ventured past 11 generations, though I have had a few WikiTreers who say they need a 12th generation or a 13th.
What kind of paper are they going to be printing this on is the question.
I know. Well, even once you get past 5, you kind of need some specialty paper, or you need to print print it at a reduced rate. But
or you can just put it on a tapestry that you can get from the WikiTree store.
Exactly.
Whenever that's big enough.
Yeah. Or the other thing is, because you can save it as a PDF, you can upload that PDF to a place. Well, in Canada, we have Staples. I don't know if you have Staples in the States or something.
Like Kinko's and
Kinko's, yeah, that sort of idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do custom print jobs. And I actually, side story here, I was at a math conference last year in Ottawa, and I'd made connections with a bunch of cousins and who I'd never met, but I connected to them through DNA and through one was through WikiTree. And so I set up a meeting to go out for supper with all these new cousins I'd met, and I printed up giant family trees to give to them to show how we were all interrelated and stuff. So that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I digressed. We were talking about
colors.
Colors. So you'll notice that, so the default coloring scheme for this fan chart is by generation. So each generation is a different color. But in this latest, in the outer ring, you see that there's 2 sets of names that are the same colors. And in fact, that's because Suzanne and Francois are sort of double great-grandparents because they had a daughter, Angelique, who was the, great-great-grandmother of Joseph Achille on his father's side, and another daughter, Joseph, who was a great-great-grandmother on his mother's side. So they are repeat ancestors.
What?
So Francois Marie Daoust is on
both sides of your tree?
Both sides of the tree, yeah. And Suzanne and his wife, Suzanne Montpetit.
So I guess you made that option because you noticed you had that in your tree.
Yes, if you have French Canadian ancestry, this will happen to you. Yeah, it happened. And
okay, Chris.
It happens in Quebec.
Like it happens in Quebec, sir.
Now, it's not just French Canadian. This happens in in lots of cultures where there's endogamy and pedigree collapse. I suspect that almost everyone, if you go far enough back, will have something like this. If you look at a royal family tree, it is very multicolored if you use this type of feature. And in fact, one of the things I've done in in the history menu drop down, it shows you a list of the fan charts that I've opened up in this session, but I pre-populate it with Tudor IV, which is
King Henry VIII.
Yes, King Henry VIII. And so if you start with his fan chart, you'll see this effect quite a bit. But for me, I thought it was interesting and helpful to see where where the repeats, because
that is cool.
Yeah, and if it gets depending on your color scheme, it can get a little hairy. So it might be easier if you change your palette to something a little more muted. Like if you do the shades of gray, then it really stands out. Okay. Which leads me to sort of the next feature, is the fact that you can have different palettes. Now I'm going to turn off the colorize, so that won't be as distracting now. But so the default palette is the one that I first started with, and the colors are very distinct. So even with my heart of color eyes, I can tell them one from another. But if you just want a blank one, there's the white one there. The shades of gray is a nice sort of neutral one. And there's the pastels is one that I've come to like a lot. And then I just did sort of gradients of various colors. Green's my favorite color, so there had to be a green option. And then I made a rainbow one, because I thought that was kind of a cool option. And this one is slightly different. The other ones, all the color schemes sort of work from the primary and work out. But for a rainbow, I thought, well, rainbows always start with red on the outside and then they work in. So no matter how many generations you're showing, the outer ring will always be the red ring, depending on how many. And if you go past, I don't know, 7 or 8, I can't remember offhand which one it was, then the red sort of goes red, orange, green, yellow, green, blue.
Start getting
red,
some
orange,
double
yellow,
and triple.
green, blue, violet, indigo, and then it repeats. So you can have like a double rainbow. And then I've chosen some of the ancestry colors and the MyHeritage color scheme. So if you use those, if you like that type of color scheme, then you've got that option. Both of those, I think, had more colors than I had room for in this palette. So I was sort of picking and choosing the ones that were more distinct, so easier to tell from one from the other. And Tommy really helped me a lot in this section of it. And then I've got the option to customize the palette, and we'll look at that a little bit later. Okay. But let me go back to in the color option. I told you this option here is coloring by generations, right? So every generation is its own unique coloring. But you could also color it by grandparent. So if you wanted all of one set of grandparents to be unique, you could do it that way. And I actually have the option to do that as by great-grandparents. So you have 8 different colors to distinguish your 8 great-grandparents, all the way up to 32 possible distinctions, so that you can see where your great-great-great-grandparents. If you want to go that, granular sort of thing.
That looks really colorful.
That's very colorful, yes. Yeah. So then, what else so then I also have in the color options, I have the option to highlight it by various DNA options. So if I choose highlight the Y DNA, then the path for the Y DNA is highlighted in yellow. So now for this to show up better, I'm going to change to shades of gray for the general color palette. And then you can see the highlighting is quite obvious there, right? So the Y DNA is inherited from father to son. So it's a purely male line. Likewise, the maternal, where are we here? Is through the mother's line. And the X chromosome inheritance is a little trickier in that it's a little harder to explain, but I have a little note at the top here that explains how it works. So sons get an X chromosome from their mother, and a Y chromosome from the father. So that's why the Y DNA is male only. Daughters get an X chromosome from each of their parents. So my primary person in this fan chart is Joseph Achille, a guy. So he gets X chromosome from his mother, but not from his father. The mother gets it from both her parents, and her mother gets from both her parents, but her father only gets it from his mother. And so you see, it's going to be on the mother's side, but only pieces of the mother's side. And this is why this particular type of inheritance can be a little confusing for people who are venturing into DNA. But for the first...
So if the starting person was a female, the lines would go both ways.
In fact, if I did, so let me just do that. So there you go. So you're right. So if the starting person is a female, then from both mother and father, but then the father's line only through his mother, and so on.
Cool.
So I thought this might be a handy tool with the fan charts. So it's sort of very visual where your X chromosome comes in. And I actually use this, and I said I was going to write a blog post, which I haven't yet done, but I actually use my tool and this feature to verify my second great grandmother through DNA, because there was a couple people who on her profile page could possibly be related through DNA, and I was able to get a match with them, and because of a match through this X chromosome, I was able to verify that it was in fact from that line that I was connected and not through a different line. So cool. It was very cool. Yeah. But okay, so we're getting the other thing there is in the DNA is the DNA confirmed. So now to show that, I'm going to go back to my own profile. And so you see what I did. Under history, I just chose my own name, my own wiki ID, and then it automatically reloads that. And I'm going to change. I'm going to go up one more generation. And zoom out a bit so you can see there. And if I change the color option to DNA confirmed, you can see the ones that are highlighted are all those ancestors. I've got all my grandparents, great-grandparents. I've confirmed that relationship, and about half of my great-great-grandparents, and this is the one, Marie-Julie Vayette, who was the one I was able to confirm with the help of my X chromosome matching. So if you're using DNA to confirm relationships, this is a neat way to track that as well. Okay. Pip, you saw that West Frisian to English. That happens to me, and I don't know why that happens. I have no idea what West Frisian is even. Sorry, June, that your computer's going in and out. Interesting. Okay, so looking at my notes, where am I going to go next? I think I'm going to turn off the highlights for now because that's a little distracting.
And you were going to talk about, I think, how you can change the color palette to the certain locations.
That's exactly what I have next to my notes. So let me just check and show you that. Okay, so if you actually, no, I think I want to go back a generation for that one. I'm going to go to color by country. And there you have it. So this is 5 generations of my chart, and it's colored by my country of birth. So you'll see that all those who were born in Canada are colored red. In Bas Canada, which is Lower Quebec, which is basically what became Quebec before Canada was a nation, is in orange. I've got a couple that were in England, so those are color-coded blue, and then Ireland are color-coded green. Now, I have customized that color coding this morning, and what you can do to customize it. So if you wanted, you click on in the legend, you click on the link that says customize, and then you can change the color. So if I wanted Bas Canada instead of orange, if I wanted to be, what do I want it to be? Something that would be a little different. Say beige. And I wanted the text instead to be green on beige. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but let's have a look-see. There you go. It was important to me that Ireland was green and that Canada was red. I might even customize it so that Canada is red and white, like the flag. There we go.
So Greg, Jelaine has a question that I think everybody, that's a good question. She says,
Okay.
how long does it take for changes to be reflected on the tree? She just added some parents she didn't have, but it's not on the tree, the fan chart yet.
Oh, that's interesting. It should be automatic because it goes to the WikiTree server live, not to the backup that's only done once a week. But what you might need to do is you might need to regenerate. If you just added them, you might need to regenerate your fan chart.
She said she had to leave and regenerate it. She found the answer.
Oh, okay. Yes, because what happened? So when it first loads, it queries the WikiTree server and gets all the information. And when you hit the plus button, if it doesn't already have those ancestors in memory, then it goes and gets their information. And every time you hit the plus button up until 11, it goes and finds the information. So that's why as you go further and further out, there's a more and more of a time lag as it gathers more information from the server. But once it's got the information, then it doesn't go back and double check the information. So if you're making changes right on the fly, you do have to regenerate it to see those updated ones. But that's a good point. Now, one of the things that looking at the countries, I found it very useful because it points out where there are errors in your data. So, for example, you see all this red, which means that they were born in Canada. Well, that's not exactly true because Margaret, here, let me just pop up her ancestor chart. Margaret Bell is born in 1854. That's probably too small for you to see, right? So let me zoom in on that. Born in 1854, Canada didn't become a country until 1867. So technically, that birth location should not be Ontario, Canada. It should actually be Upper Canada. And the same with Martha over here. But those are the default locations that had popped up, or I just didn't pay attention, or this is early on when I was adding to WikiTree and I wasn't as good at, putting the locations in properly based on time period.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two areas that I know I have to go back. But one thing I did do is I did make sure that they were all actual countries at least. But if I switch to, and one of the features I've just added in the most recent update is the ability to go back and forth from country of birth to country of death. And if I go up another generation, you'll see that the list of countries, so there's British America, and I'm not sure if that's the official name. I should double check to see if that's what it's really supposed to be called. Canada, Ireland, but Ontario is not a country unto itself. Quebec is not a country unto itself. So that is a big red flag, or in this case, I guess a gray flag, that the location data isn't as complete as it should be. So that helps me to know what sort of things I should fix and update on my tree. And so that, let me go back to the birth one because that one is at least a little cleaner. The other option under coloring is to color by place name. And I'm going to go to the default.
That looks intimidating.
Yeah, it does. So here I am coloring by, the default is to color by country shading. I guess I'd switch to a different, the other one. What you'll notice is, so you'll remember that all of the birthplace, everyone who was born in Canada was colored red when I was coloring by country. Now that I'm coloring it by place name, they're all shades of red. So all the Canadian places are some type of shade of red, but they're slightly different, so you can sort of tell one from the other. And all the Bas Canada are shades of beige, England shades of blue, and Ireland shades of green.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that is, so I thought that was kind of neat to do. You can't customize this screen. If you wanted to change, you could, whatever shade you made the color, whatever color you made the country, then the shades would be based on that. So if you made Ireland, instead of dark green, if you made it a lime green, then all of these countries, all of these cities, places would be a shade of lime green instead of a shade of dark green. So it automatically reflects back and forth. The other thing, the other option though, is to change it to unique colors. So then, and that's the screen you saw briefly when I first clicked to this. And I want to point out two things about that. What this does is it takes the country first, and then the place, and then gives it a shade based on the country. If we switch to unique colors, then it looks only at the place name and doesn't look at the country at all. So there's a place called Coteau du Lac, which means basically the side or the coast of the lake. And I have two ancestors who were born there. Joseph Achille again, and his father, Joseph Eli. And they were both born in Coteau du Lac, but one was born there after Canada became a country, so that's in Canada, down here. The other one, it was in Bas Canada, because it was before Canada became a nation. When I switch to unique colors, they're both colored the same because they both have the same name, Coteau du Lac. So what's kind of cool about this type of color coding is that if you have a place that a bunch of ancestors are from, it'll all be the same color, and you can see it sort of scroll back in time. And if I extended this to 6 or 7 or 8 generations, you'll see huge swaths of people from the same village in Quebec, which is very cool.
That could help with like a place name study, place name study. Yeah.
Yeah, that would definitely. Now, where it falls down is that the way it parses the data from WikiTree is that if you have a name, so let me open this up. So for Robert Little, for example, the country is always the very last part of the location after the last comma. So in this case, it's going to be England. And the place is the first part, which would be, in this case, Lanarcost. But if you have someone whose place is just one word, Ireland, then it thinks, okay, well, Ireland is the country, that's obvious. And Ireland has to be the place name because I have nothing else to go on. So over here in the legend, you'll see Ireland is a potential place name because that's the only thing you have to go on. So it's kind of weird that way. But it also means, and I did get a request after the last update, there is an issue. For example, if you're from Springfield, somewhere in the US, there's at least 23 possible locations that could be, I think, when I last looked up. And all Springfields using this algorithm are going to be colored the same, no matter whether you're a Springfield on the West Coast or the East Coast or somewhere in the middle. So there was a request to add a sort of third option to take into account that middle piece of the location if that's given, so the state name in this case. So it's not impossible to program. I just haven't gone there yet. And if people do need that or want that as an added feature, then I can add it to my list. I mean, I've added it to my list, but depending on how many people need it, I can prioritize it. So, you could put that in the comments.
Because I don't think it happens that often where, you have somebody born on the Springfield on the West Coast and Springfield on the East Coast that are in the same, still, I mean, it definitely can happen, but
yeah, I'm not sure how often. It certainly hasn't been an issue with my genealogy and with my test cases, but I know that my test cases are not as diverse as everyone else's. So, but which is why it hasn't happened yet. It's not something I've noticed, but Anyways, I'm going to go back to coloring by generations, and let's have a look at the custom palette. So you can actually, if you don't like one of the palettes that have already been set up, then you can make your palette as unique as you want. So if you want,
Wow.
if you really like lime green and you want someone to stand out, then you can do something like this.
So you can make like a pattern like lime green, yellow, lime green, yellow.
You could certainly do that. You can even, and the primary, let me make that orange really jump out. So if I apply that, then all of a sudden, so I just customize the sort of the inner ring there, and you can see how it turns out. And if I change, if I change to grandparent color, it still uses the same color scheme that I set up. It just applies it depending on how your color mode, right?
Very nice.
So that's kind of a neat thing. And the other thing that you can do for customizing is you can customize the prime color. So that's the color of the person in the very middle of the chart. So right now, the default, it's not picking up. Okay, so there's a bug. It should show that bright orange that I just picked. So that is a bug I will fix. Oops, I should have chosen black so you wouldn't notice that was a bug. Anyways, but if you want to customize the color, so you always want the primary person to be bright red with a white text. Then, and let me zoom out a bit. So then with that feature, you can see that there's a check mark now under custom prime color. There's a check mark there next to it. So that means no matter what color palette I use, the primary person, that customized color that I chose for their primary person will sort of override the default palette. So if I want that, if you happen to have a very special color that you want to designate for this person, regardless of what everyone else is, you could use that. I'm not sure how many people will want to use that sort of feature, but I got carried away one day and thought it was a cool addition.
Isabel says that, which I guess it's true, Vermont and Massachusetts, like in the I can't even think right. New England. In New England, there's a lot of places where it's the same city but a different state. And Isabel says she's run across that a lot. So I guess some people saying that yes, you should probably make that third option, that middle.
Okay, so are they the same? Are they different states because over time the boundaries changed, or are there actually unique, distinct villages that are different, that are in two different locations?
I just think I think also it's because I think also because New England, they in those areas they weren't very creative either. Oh. I think it's probably a combination of stuff where boundaries change, but also like they just had the same city names too.
Right. So. Okay, I will make sure that I add that in the next update then. Okay. So
was there anything else that you really wanted to talk about, Greg? Because we're getting. I don't want to. I mean, I think people are really enjoying it, but I'd never like to make it too long.
Right. Oh my goodness! Look how long I've gone. I did not realize the time has gone.
That happens.
Okay. Okay. Let me speed through. Give me 5 more minutes. Is that okay?
That's perfectly fine. 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. Okay. Bunch of things. If you want to start a new one, you can go through here. You notice that it actually has a link to your children if they're on WikiTree, or and your spouse of the primary person, so you can climb up to get to an ancestors, but you can actually go branch sideways if you from here. And I already talked about the history. The other view shows different views of your family tree looking in other places. An app that's in development mode for me that I'm creating is the H tree, which is another cool way of looking at your family tree, but I won't get into that now, maybe a different time. 2 things here. The sharing URL, if you want to share your family tree, and you want to share exactly this look to it so that someone else can come to this, to basically this screen without having to go through all the different setup that you did. Click under Fan Help, click on Sharing URL, and there is it's a big long URL, but you can click the copy button and automatically it'll be in your clipboard, and then you can put it inside an email address or an email message or post on Facebook or wherever, and that'll give you a link that you put it in your URL in your browser, or someone clicks on it, and it'll automatically redraw that fan chart exactly as you had it set up, with the same parameters, the same coloring, and everything. The other thing, where were we here? And we talked about this briefly, is that if you click on the save icon, it'll create a PDF of your fan chart. And you can customize that. Blue ancestor fan chart. It also tells you how big this is going to be. So the PDF is going to be metric and imperial, so 15 inches by 8 by 4, which will fit on an A3 or a tabloid size piece of paper. And of course, you can print it on any other size if you adjust the scale factor. So it uses the exact same parameters again, and there it is. And I was showing Sarah earlier on, one of the options is to include or not include the QR code. And the way that works is if you use your phone, for example, and take a picture of the QR code, or if you have a QR reader app, then what that'll do is that'll open up the fan chart, this exact fan chart that you see there, inside the fan chart app. So that one use of that is you could distribute these fan charts at family reunions, for example, and then any of your cousins could scan that code, and that would automatically take them to this page here where they would see your family tree, and then they could explore it or create their own version of it and customize it. And maybe you could get more recruits for WikiTree that way.
Wonderful.
The last thing I want to show you quickly is that actually two things. Under here is a link to a help document, which is a Google Doc, and I put to it details all the different features of the fan chart and things that I've gone through today, and a few more. And the other thing is that I have an option here to log in, and I haven't actually logged in at all this time. So all of this stuff you can do without actually logging into the WikiTree app server, which is a separate server from WikiTree itself. But if you do log in, and there you put in your email address and your password, and you log in, what it'll do is it'll create your default fan chart, but you'll notice the colors are slightly different and the options are slightly different here. That's because what it's doing is it's loading my fan chart with me as the primary person, but it's using my preferences. So I've gone through, and now there's two extra options at the bottom of this fan settings. There's an open preferences and then a return to default preferences option. And if I click on open preferences, this is the set of preferences that I prefer. This is my ideal fan chart setup. So basically all of those settings, what I want to show and what I don't want to show, yes or no. I like the exact dates, but I don't actually usually show the suffixes or the prefixes or the middle names. And so I can click on those, and then that gives me my fan chart. So the next time I log in, this is the set that I'm going to get.
That's very nice.
So that way you can customize it, make sure you've logged in, save your preferences, and then the next time you don't have to go through all that setup, because you might not like the default name highlights and the default palette, right? That may be ugly to you, so you might want to change it to something else. And so you see how I just went back to the default ones right away. And you can get to that same thing by clicking on the gear icon. And if you don't want to make changes, just click on the return. And it also, if you're logged in, it will, when you customize your palette, it'll also save that. So if you've set up a couple, you can create two unique custom palettes like I've done here, and it'll save both of those if you want.
Very cool.
Okay, those are most of the features. There might be a
That's a lot of features.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Greg is open if people have any specific questions about his app. They can reach out to Greg.
And you can reach me directly under the Fan Help Mat contact author.
Look, he thought of everything. Help
I like
me.
that help.
So there you go. Well, thank you, Greg. This was, I learned so much. I think a lot of the features you added on your chart helps people with their tree and fixing your errors, like you're saying, the place names and all that. So I think that's all. And then the DNA features, I think that's all really cool. I don't know if anybody has any last minute questions for Greg about his.
Don't look at my toolbar. No, don't look at my toolbar.
Everybody said this was fabulous and thank you, and everybody was very happy with. And Jelaine was like, "See what happens when you talk about something you love. That's why you didn't notice the time."
I had no clue it went this far. Sorry for trapping you so long.
I mean, people are still watching.
Well,
so, so.
Thanks, Pip. Thanks, cousins. Cousins all.
Yeah, we're all cousins here.
Yeah, that's great.
So, I don't think there's gonna be any questions. Kelly says this is the best live so far.
Thanks, Kelly.
Wow, thanks, Kelly. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I don't see any questions popping up, but like I said, you guys can, there's literally, you can go ask the author a question on the app itself. Because we do a live cast every first Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So that's actually going to be coming this Wednesday. So if you guys want to come for that. And Walter just asked if this is an open source, Greg.
Okay, well, that's an excellent question, and it will be. I haven't transmuted it or translated. I haven't put it up to GitHub yet because I wasn't quite done with it, and I know that's not the idea of GitHub necessarily, but I will. I am planning on posting it to GitHub in the future. So stay tuned.
It will be. Stay tuned.
It will be, and I'm happy to share what I've learned. And there's some things I haven't quite figured out yet. One of the features I do want to do is currently I want to get beyond the when you log in, I want to be able to show stuff that that you have access to. So, for example, I can't show my own middle name because that's private.
So getting past that, I guess getting past at least your own.
I've talked to Jamie, and I think I have to sort of change the way I access the server, which is going to require some recoding and stuff. So I want to get beyond that hurdle, but that might take a while. So.
Because I think it'd be nice, at least for your own personal records, having like my parents are still living, so they're shown as private. So so I can't. But they don't show up.
But when you go to my family trees and tools page, they show up, right?
Yes.
So ideally, what I want it to be able to do is to show anything that's on the family tree and tools page that you have legit access to when you've logged in to show up here. But if you don't, then it shows up as private, right? So currently it's just defaulting to private sort of thing. So that is a feature.
So, so like I was saying, Wednesday we have the next live stream, our monthly one. So keep on the lookout for that. And then we have our one every Saturday. So please come join us. We always have fun time. I don't know. Maybe we can't top what Greg just did ever again. I don't know, but
you don't have that much time. I'm sorry, I went very long.
No, it's okay. I mean, like top, like everybody liked your live stream. So, okay. So I think we're gonna go, and I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet, so I'm gonna eat something. I don't know what you guys are gonna do, but I'm gonna go eat some food. I will see you guys on Wednesday if you guys are going to come. If not Saturday, have a wonderful day.